Yeah. Well, I want to welcome everybody. We've got a bunch of our regular attendees. The State Republican Committee meeting is being held today, and so that's where a lot of our folks are. I contacted both of the candidates for the city commission seat here in Ponca City that is up for election. The lady, Stephanie, I can't remember her last name. Hello, Michael. Good to see you, man. She couldn't work it into her schedule, and Harold Randolph, that's a regular attendee at our meetings, he's the other candidate, but he's at the state committee meeting. So, but I did offer him a chance to come in and talk to y'all so you can get a chance to meet him. We are fortunate today, as a surprise, I've got Karen Waldrop, who is our lead coordinator down in Canadian County, and she's been kicking tail down there. She's really been doing a great job. Her next meeting, what date is that meeting, Karen? February 10th at our Canadian County meeting in Yukon, Liberty Church in Yukon. 10 a.m. on a Saturday. Her guests are going to be the McCloskeys. Do you remember them from St. Louis? The couple was on their front porch with guns confronting BLM when they broke into their housing area. And they're coming down from St. Louis to speak. So if I can get down there, I'm definitely going to go down there. I heard the man speak a year and a half, 2 years ago at one of Jackson Lawmire's, the big event he had in Norman. And he ran for the Senate there too, didn't he? No, Langford's our senator. Yeah. Yeah. So, and we got the boss here, Don Spencer, those of you that haven't met him. And I'm going to let him do part of what I was going to. Can you put that slide up, Stephen? The two senators? I'm going to let you pitch that. You get a lot better job on it than I do. Go on, let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and do it now. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Man, I'd love to bring you a lot better news than what we've got going here, but it's something else, I tell you. As you can see on the slide we've got up in front of us, folks, we got an important election taking place that is done behind closed doors. And this election should be made public like any other vote that the Senate or the House has to do. So we should know how our state senators are voting for the state leadership. And be that as it may, there's, believe it or not, telling you need to contact your senator and have them vote for Senator David Bullard to be the new pro tem. Because quite honestly, you can see up above right here, Senator Greg McCourtney, who started in there, I think in 2016, but we've got grades from 2017. You can see that he's had C pluses and C pluses, and he had an A for constitutional carry the one year, had a B plus only because it was a COVID year and virtually everything was shut down because of the Senate. There were a few votes, but after that you can see really who he is. You can see D's and C's, and we can do much better than this, because if you look at Senator David Bullard, anybody see an A up there? And then you see a plus beside it and a plus beside it. This is a constitutional, he taught constitutional in high school for students. So he knows and has a concept of what's going on when it comes to our Constitution. So what we're going to do today, at some point, who here has contacted your state senator on this? That's obviously not enough. So what we're going to do, Terry, we're going to do something completely different, especially after everyone gets in here. We're going to break all the rules for Terry today, because what we're going to do here in just a few minutes, you're going to pull your cell phone out, and I'm going to give you your state senator's cell phone number, and you're going to call and leave a message today. We're going to start with that. And if you've already done it, we're going to do it again. This is that big and it's that important of a deal for this to take place. And let me tell you why. Who here has Senator Coleman as your senator?
That's all of us,
Practically everybody? Okay.
except for Karen.
Let me tell you the voting history of Senator Coleman when it comes to illegal aliens in Oklahoma legislature wanting to give them a driver's license. Anybody see a problem with that? Why is it you can see it's a problem, but in that state capital, a credibly liberal Democrat can introduce a bill for illegal aliens to have an Oklahoma driver's license? And would you like to know how your senator has voted on that? I got it right here. Senator Coleman, he's not only voted for it once, he's voted for it twice, for illegal aliens to have an Oklahoma driver's license. Is that with your values? And some of you, maybe many of you are Republican. Would you be surprised that this is directly against the Republican Party platform? And then as I found out today, it's also against a 2007 law that I'm going to do more history on and get it to you. It's also against an oath to protect us. Does anybody notice that little problem down south at the border? And the difference between Oklahoma and Texas. Oklahoma and Texas, Texas says very clearly, you want this razor wire? Come and take it. You just come and take it. Try it. That's the difference between Oklahoma. Oklahoma is, oh, well, here's your driver's license. Here's your illegal driver's license. You know, we wouldn't dare think about. Now, Governor Stitt is sending down state troops. Good. That needs to happen. But also from that same time, we notice it says we're not going to aid illegal aliens at all anymore. In fact, we need to be boxing them up and sending them back out of here.
Yes.
That's what needs to be happening. The stress this is put on, and it just cracks me up. These Chicago and New York freaking out because all these illegal aliens are coming in. And here's what they're doing. It's all a part of the Democrat plan. They're looking to Washington, D.C. Give us some money. Throw us some more money. Let's go. Throw some more money at it. And it's your money. It's your money. It's your money. And our state government, do you think setting up driver's licenses for illegal aliens, does that cost zero? No. Someone's paying for it. But Senator Bill Coleman has voted twice for illegal aliens to get an Oklahoma driver's license. And correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, he told you he was voting for it the one time.
I texted him on the floor vote, and he's told me that he was against it, and then he voted for it just 3 or 4 hours later.
So, if you've got a legislator that is violating their oath, they're violating the state party platform, they're violating everything that's going on here, they need to hear from you and hear from you a lot. So, Terry, I'll pull my phone out. You got the office number? Okay.
There it is. There's his email.
Okay. Everyone pull your phone out. Get it ready to call. And I'm going to give you the phone number. Everybody got your dials ready? Okay. The phone number is 405 521 5581. All you're going to do is leave a message that says no for illegal aliens and yes for David Bullard. That's all you got to do.
Let me repeat it. 405-521-5581.
Go ahead and do it right now. Hit the send button. We're going to take just a minute. Or hit the call button and say no for illegal aliens, yes for David Bullard. No for illegal aliens, yes for David Bullard. Yeah, let's see we'll see if they've already got it full of phone calls.
What was that number again? 405.
405-521. on illegal aliens. No, we want, you got it backwards. You want them to vote against illegal aliens. Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. Okay. Vote for Bullard. Yeah.
Way to go, Claude.
Okay. So I think there's one left here.
Ronald Buck, City, Oklahoma, 74601.
Well,
No on
illegal aliens.
Alien, yes on Bullard.
Thank you.
Bye.
That's all you got to do. Now, here's what's been going on is that the word has already gotten back. Senators are upset with this guy named Don Spencer because he's telling you who needs to be the pro tem. We have this opportunity to fix this swamp that's taking place at our own state capitol. And they don't want to know, they don't want you to know how they're getting this swamp stuff done. And so they're upset because, well, you should not be influencing a vote. Why not? We have a First Amendment right to free speech and a First Amendment right to redress government. So we're going to do it. We're going to continue to do it. So I appreciate your help today. And folks, you listen to Terry on next week. This is going to happen again. Also, I will put on your calendars very quick. Everyone get your calendar ready. February the 12th. That's a Monday. And I ain't had time to tell Terry about this yet. February the 12th, it's a Monday at the Oklahoma State Capitol. I'm asking everyone to be there before noon because this vote for the pro tem takes place at noon. And we'll get you more information on it. You're going to get emails on it. But we want everyone up there. I want these senators tripping over us going in to vote for David Bullard. And when they come out, we can see this. They can see the smiles on their face when they have elected David Bullard as the new pro tem designate for next year. All right, make sense? Okay. At the moment, let's see. Okay, I think I've whined enough from what I have been instructed by legislators. So Terry, thank you for that, guys. Thank you for it. This is how we get this done.
Yeah, amen.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.
If you, yeah, give the man a hand. He's the guy who makes it happen down at the Capitol, folks.
Wasn't Coleman term limited?
No, he's,
Done this year?
no, he's got, he just got reelected, so he's his first year into his, so he's got the rest of this term, 2 more years, 2 years in. 2 more years here, and then he can run for reelection in 26. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Karen?
Yeah, I was just doing. This vote right now is where we need to pay our attention to, but yes, Jessica Garvin in Duncan she's putting anti-gun bills out like crazy and then trying to make it out that we don't know what we're talking about. When you want to make a felon at a couple of kids that are pointing Nerf guns at each other and playing with it, I think it's time for us to reevaluate who is in that position and get rid of it. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, anybody want his Bill Coleman's email? I would also request that you send him an email as well. Then he's got something in writing on his phone. And it's easy to remember. Bill.Coleman, Coleman, at oksenate.gov. So as long as you know his name, that ought to be an easy one to remember. And everyone in here has got my phone number. If you need any of this information again, give me a holler, okay? You'll never bother me calling me something to do with these. Speaking of Garvin down there, with that bill that Don was just referring to, she put out a news release, and it was fun. She talked about a state organization. She wouldn't name OK2A and its director, which she got that wrong. He's the president. She wouldn't give Don's name. And then this was a laugh, folks. She said that she's working with the true representative of the Second Amendment in Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Rifle Association. Hey, wow, that beard's really getting there, buddy. Now, the ORA is a joke. I posted on that deal on Facebook. They have one meeting a year, and they meet in an old phone booth. That's the size of their organization. Now, they're also the local branch representative, whatever, of the NRA. The NRA, maybe it'll get better, but they've been, at best, not pulling their weight for the last couple of decades. So, but I thought that was funny. She's working with the RRA, and she could probably fit into that same phone booth when they have their yearly meeting. So, okay, I wasn't expecting Don here, but that's a treat. Now, the Middletons, I hope everybody saw on my flyer, at the it said appearing via video. I tried to connect with them to get them here live. They spoke at November at the Kay County GOP meeting. I got a chance to meet them, but between their schedule, their trial is, they applied for their trial to be postponed, and the judge denied it. So they're going in on trial on February 5. So what is that, a week and a half out? And these folks are just hardworking, good Americans, patriots. They went there as a patriotic move, and now they've lost their jobs. They've spent I don't know how much on legal fees. And well, just imagine, I mean, well, you'll see them, they're probably in their 50s, and they're looking at 20 plus years in jail. They've got a website and they've got a group. They'll be talking about it in the video. So, you ready to go, Stephen? And could you dim the lights just a little bit? Great. And then we can take some questions later, and I'm sure you'll have some for Don.
Life, but I'm honored that God has let us live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. So if y'all would you stand with me? We are going to say our pledge allegiance to the American flag and to the Texas flag. We'll start with the Texas flag. Honor the Texan flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible. Now to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's pray. Father, we love you. I want to thank you that today we're free. And God, it don't matter what dictators, what kings, what presidents do, they can't take the freedom you've put in our heart. And I just pray, Father God, that you give your people the boldness to stand on your principles, on your character, knowing that you are king over all. And Father, when we live surrendered to you, no matter what happens to us in this world, our eternity is out of this world and in your presence. I thank you today for these people, and I pray you work in our hearts today to create the purpose you have for us in this end time. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Vicki and Jan Bass, and I am so honored that Jan and Vicki have done the things they're doing. We also have another one of these coming up in November the 12th on Texas School Board. She's going to be sharing that with you too. So, Miss Vicki.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, I don't think it's the 12th. I think it's a Sunday. I think it's the 15th. But I've got to look at my calendar. So more information's coming on that. Okay, I would like to introduce Mark and Jalise Middleton. Are they in here?
Yes.
There they are. Here they come. We had the opportunity to see them in April in Tyler at the Grassroots We the People. And their presentation was wonderful. We're so lucky to have them come here. You guys ready? Yeah. Here's your other mic.
Thank you very much, Vicki. Thank y'all for having us as well. Let me get situated a little bit here. Oh, okay. Oh, there's a screen. So get used to somebody else's church. So I run the media and lighting at our church. So I understand sometimes things are a little wonky. We are Mark and Jalise Middleton. How many of y'all know what a J6er is? Oh, good. A few of y'all. Well, there are J6ers because we as Christians have warmed these pews way too long, and we have not been involved in what's going on in our country, in our state, our county, our cities. And so anyway, me and Jalise, go ahead.
Did you tell them what a J6er is?
No, I did not.
So a J6er is somebody that went to the Capitol on January 6th. And if y'all will forgive me, I've had a little frog in my throat today, so I may need some help off and on. But J6er is somebody that went to the Capitol on January 6th and subsequently were arrested for their involvement in that day. And so you will hear us referring to a J6er, and that's what it's talking about. Thank you so much.
No, I'm good. I'm a pacer.
All right. So what we normally do is we will start out with our arrest, the day that we were arrested. And then we kind of back the story up and tell you what all happened on January 6th in our world from our perspective. And then we will go on to kind of educate you on some things along the way. But what you can expect is every now and then, I'm going to give you a training point because this is coming your way. You may think, and I hope you don't, oh, those poor people, I hate that that happened to them. Because I'm here telling my story because it's not just going to be me and Mark. We're just the early ones on the hook. We're here to warn you because it's coming to your home too.
There we go. Get used to that iPad. Kind of give you a little rundown on some of these pictures. The one up in the upper left-hand corner there for y'all is me and Jalise when we were 16 years old. That was about almost 40 years ago. That'll come in handy in a little bit. And the picture in the very center is a picture right outside of our farm on the gravel road that we have to turn out on to go to the main road. That also will come in handy here in a minute, keeping that picture in mind. So I was the first one arrested on April 21st of 2021. So this is a little bit more than 3 months prior or post January 6th. And, good feedback. So anyway, I pull off the farm in my company car heading to work, and everybody know what an MRAP is? Anybody? MRAP is a armored assault vehicle that the military uses, and also a lot of SWAT teams are using now to protect them. So telling on myself on my naivety, as I turned onto the gravel road, right there where that picture is, I saw an MRAP coming towards me, and I thought, that's weird. And right after I thought that, 2 black Suburbans pop out of it with guys hanging out of them with automatic weapons pointed towards me, and I thought, that's really weird. And then looked in my rearview mirror, here comes 2 more black Suburbans up behind me with guys hanging out of it with automatic weapons pointing at me. Like any rational individual, I stopped the car and I began complying with what they were telling me to do, which was to come towards the 2 agents. As I'm walking towards them with my hands up, out of the MRAP, they throw a flashbang grenade right at my feet. Now, a flashbang grenade is a stun grenade, what they use to, if someone's not complying or they're breaking into a house or something, they throw these grenades, really loud bang, really bright flash. It's designed to stun the people who they're using it against. Rules of engagement for cops and for the FBI and everything is they can't use them within like 20 or 30 feet of a person because they are capable of being lethal in close proximity. That also will come in handy in a little bit when we talk about January 6th. So when they threw that and it went off, I stopped and I turned at the MRAP and I go, seriously? And I looked back at the 2 agents calling me towards them and I said, why did they do that? And he looked sheepishly at me and said, Washington told us to do it this way. And he wasn't lying. So as I continued to them, they grabbed me and asked me, do I know why I'm being arrested? And I said, well, no. And he said, for your involvement in January 6th. And I kind of chuckled, but I said, you have an arrest warrant? And he said, no, I don't have to show you that. And he said, yes, I do. I don't have to show you, though. And I said, oh, yeah, you do. He said, no, I don't. So we went back and forth on this kind of who's on first thing. Yeah, you do, no, you don't thing. And anyway, they grabbed my arms and they put a leather belt around my waist. They cuffed my arms to each side of the belt, and then they put leg shackles on me. And as they're putting me in the car, they asked me, where is my wife? And I said, she's still at home. She's getting ready. Please call her because Jalise is disabled. And I didn't want them hurting my wife. I didn't want them shooting her, obviously. I didn't want them busting down my front door with that MRAP, and I didn't want them killing my dogs. So the best option I could think of is to call her. So they finished getting me in the car. All the SWAT teams took off. There were 2 SWAT teams that day, 1 for each of us. And anyway, from that point, I will let her take up.
Okay, so I was in the house getting ready for work, running a little bit late, and I get a phone call. And I don't answer it because I'm trying to hurry and get ready, but they immediately call back. And I just got that sense something isn't right. So I went ahead and answered the phone. Do I have my phone on me? That might be what's doing it. Okay. But anyway, I went ahead and answered the phone. And when I did, it was a woman on the other end. And she said, we have your husband. This is FBI. Come out with your hands up. I don't have a category for that. In my mind, I'm thinking, somebody done took my husband. I'm going to have to fight to get this man back. Now, I don't know why I thought that. We are not wealthy people by any stretch. I don't know where my head went. But I truly did not believe it was FBI because that seemed too far-fetched. So I carry every morning, and I already had my holster on. I just did not have my weapon in. And I went around out of the bathroom to my dresser, and there's my weapon. And I don't know if I looked over at it or I reached for it. But she knew, because whatever I did, she said, do not touch that gun. Come out with your hands up. So at that point, I realized I really am dealing with the FBI. So I comply immediately. I head out of my bedroom, and when I hit my living room, my windows are absolutely full of federal agents in my yard. I open my front door, and they fly a drone right past my head. I mean, and my door wasn't even completely open. At that point was probably the first moment that I'm starting to get mad because they could have hit me with that. And now they're in my house. So when I get the door open, I have an MRAP, yes, a tank. Us women go back and forth about that, but it's a tank, sitting on my handicap ramp with the battering ram perched toward my door. So I have to weave around that to get down my handicap ramp. I get to the bottom, I hand on my cell phone. They walk me over to a SWAT truck bumper, and I said, I need to see a search warrant. And he said, I don't have to show you one. I said, oh, you do. And he holds it up. He's like 6 feet away. I said, I cannot see that. He walks about 3 foot closer, and I said, I wear glasses. And at that point, he sends a federal agent into my house to get my glasses off of my nightstand. Now they've been in my house twice without that search warrant. And they come out and give me my glasses. He still refuses to show me the search warrant, but at that point, I can at least see my house numbers. We have a rent house that sits right beside our house on land. So at that point, I know it's for me. And he brings my renter out of her house at gunpoint. His team does, not him personally. And they sit her beside me. And he asked me, he shows me some pictures that are stills from body-worn cameras that show my hand. And he said, is that your hand? I said, well, yeah, I think so. It's very, very grainy. It's hard to tell. And he said, well, is that your ring? And it was a picture of my wedding ring. You couldn't tell, but I knew it was mine. I didn't think I had anything to hide. And I said, well, yeah, I think so. And he said, well, you can either take us to it or we'll tear up your house finding it. Now, this is lesson 1. So perk your ears up. The FBI can lie to you, but you cannot lie to the FBI. So if their mouth is moving, you should assume they're lying. Because I gave them permission to go in my house and basically steal my wedding ring. Now, they would call it confiscated. But see, the warrant, we found out later, was only for our cell phones. They could search our home to the extent of receiving the cell phones. You know, the one I walked out of the house talking to her on? They already had our cell phones. But when I gave them permission to go in my house, thinking I had nothing to hide, they could now go in and take what they wanted. So that's your first lesson. So anyway, they go in, they get the items they want out of my house, and they send me off to jail. So they read me my Miranda rights. We head off to Collin County to jail. We're in separate vehicles. I don't know how he's doing. He don't know how I'm doing. And when we kind of have a little bit of fun at the prison. We didn't quite intend to. But you know how I said we really didn't have a category for what's happening to us? Guys, we've never been in trouble before. Never even a speeding ticket on our record. So that we didn't know, we didn't have a way to process this, is what I'm getting at. So we were still thinking we just made them mad and they're just going to, you know, swat our hand and teach us a lesson not to come against the government. We didn't realize the depth of the torture and tyranny that they were going to bring into our lives. So we get booked in, and while we're waiting to be booked in, Mark comes in with his whole penguin walk with his shackles on his feet, and I laugh about it. Y'all got to forgive us. We got some twisted humor from this, because if we don't, we're just going to cry. So we got to laugh a little bit. But it looked so funny to me. I remember kind of teasing him, hey, you're looking mighty sexy in them shackles, you know, having a good time with him. We sit together, we're cutting up with each other to the point they separate us, like school children. But again, we didn't have a category. We didn't understand what was happening. So we spend the night in jail, and they come to get us early the next morning for an arraignment hearing. And at that point, now I've been in prison all night. I went through a search for them to put me in my little cute jumpsuit they put you in. So they know that you are completely unarmed, but he starts patting me down after putting me back in cuffs. And he asked me, do you have anything on you? It's another one of those moments where I just got tickled by the question, and I said, God, I hope not. Talking about lice, bed bugs, anything else I might have picked up there, fleas, you know. He wasn't impressed with my humor. They were not having fun with us. So they take us, and we're in separate vehicles again, and they take us to our court hearing. Now, I told y'all how we had 22 federal agents out on our lawn. We had 2 SWAT teams. We had M4s pointed at us. They threw flashbang grenades at us. Yes, even me as I'm walking down my handicap ramp. They have that tank on my handicap ramp. We were so dangerous. They needed all that stuff. And then they released us on our own recognizance the next day at that court hearing.
It was literally COVID restrictions, y'all get out. And that's what they did to us. Kicked us out. No jackets on. Of course, it was April 22nd at that point. It was pretty cool outside. No coats, no nothing. Just sent us out. No cell phones, no way to communicate. So I see a lawyer walking across the parking lot, and I ran over and I called our daughter, our oldest daughter, that lives near us, and they came. Her and her husband came, picked us up. Took them about an hour and a half to get there. But we were those kind of parents that when our kids all turned teenagers, we told them, if you ever get thrown in jail, do not call mom and dad. Well, guess what we heard as soon as they pulled up and opened the truck door?
Well, 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 what do we have here?
So then we called our other 2 kids, and we heard the same thing again.
And again.
And again.
And again.
So anyway, we get in the truck, my daughter's truck. They're taking us home, and me and her are still kind of cutting up from it because we just don't have a category for it. And if it ever happens to y'all, you're not going to have a category for it either. So we're cutting up and kind of making light of it, just thinking that, those rascally Trump supporters are going to spank us on the hand and scare us real good and maybe give us a fine or something. I don't know. But as we're kind of cutting up, our daughter says, "Mom, I don't think you realize the significance of what's going on." You want to go ahead and, there you go. So on this slide, she started reading some of the news stories. And on this slide up here, there's stories from CNN, from MSNBC, from Washington Post, LA Times, New York Times, the Dallas papers, the Fort Worth papers, just all around the country. And all of these stories that made us look and sound like really horrible, dangerous people that were violent.
So this is your second lesson. The first one to get to the media with your narrative wins.
So as she's reading through one of the articles, I think it was the KXII one, which is out of Sherman, which is the closest city to us that has a news station. Find out that I was instantly terminated from my job. And a few days later, Jalise was terminated as well from hers. So here we are, we get back home, and we're lost.
Our world has crumbled at our feet. Everybody that we ever knew now thinks we're terrorists, we're anti-government, anti-country. Now, we're both out of work. Whatever payments we made before Wednesday are going to be the last ones made. And there was nowhere to turn. We had family turning against us. We would walk into Walmart and people would walk the other way that would normally run up and give us a hug and ask how we're doing. Lives crushed in a matter of 24 hours. And the worst part about it is, it wasn't true things. They put our house address, my cell phone number, in those national papers. They put a picture of our home there. But
our
you
email
can better
addresses,
about
our
that.
social media accounts, everything was in those articles. So what we found out and what's happening with all J6ers is the government already knows exactly what the narrative they want out, and they contact the media days in advance and cue all of this stuff up. So on the moment of our arrest, those articles are hitting the news. And like she said, the first one who gets their story to the news, gets their narrative out first, they're the ones in the lead. Now you've got to prove everything they said is a lie.
Right. So now we're going to roll forward to that day. What caused all this drama that we would need the FBI to come raid our property to get us?
So I don't know if any of y'all were there at January 6th. If you were, you don't have to raise your hand or anything. But if you were, your story would be exactly like ours, or at least extremely similar. We stayed at the George Washington Hotel, which is just north of the Capitol. And for those that aren't familiar with D.C., the Capitol sits on the east end of the mall, and the Lincoln Memorial sits on the west end. And the Washington Monument sits right in between, right in the center, with the White House just to the north of that. So we woke up that morning, and we went to go to hear the speeches and stuff. I'm echoing really bad. Let me get over here. Sorry, I'm a migrator when I talk. So we went to go hear the speech. We didn't get up early enough to go to the ellipse because I was carrying a stool for her to sit on every time we stopped, and you couldn't bring anything into the ellipse. So we started out at about 7 a.m., and we got to the Capitol, and there's a little reflection pond just on the east side, or the west side of the Capitol. And we were there. We were standing there talking, and did I skip a slide? Yes, I did. Go to that one. We were standing there talking with a bunch of other Christians that were there. We were praying over the events of the day. Had some people there that I would consider a prophet that were saying some things. I won't go into that necessarily. But anyway, from that reflection pond, I took this picture right here. This picture is very instrumental. That's the Chinese Americans, and some of them were Korean and all that, but protesting against the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party, and supporting Trump. And the advantage of me taking this picture is it shows the chain link fence right behind them that went all the way around the Capitol. And everywhere there's a red arrow is where there was one of those bike rack type barricades set up with signs on it saying restricted area, do not enter. So I took this picture. This picture, I think, was 7:47 a.m. that morning is the timestamp on it. But later that afternoon, there were 5 permitted, planned protests for the Capitol, and we'll come back to those, or at least one of them here in a minute. But we went on to the, as close as we could get to the ellipse. So we ended up about halfway between the ellipse and the Washington Monument, which is quite a distance. We could see the Jumbotron in the distance, so I knew who was speaking, but the audio was just horrible. You really couldn't hear what they were saying. And we stayed there for a long time. Trump came on to start speaking, perhaps maybe halfway through his speech. I don't really know. People started migrating off to the Capitol, and we wanted to go there. Hopefully get up front so we could see the speakers that were going to be there at the protest, because we knew one of the speakers. Plus, there was a Jericho march around the Capitol that day, planned for that. And for all of y'all, hopefully all of y'all know the story of Jericho and what Joshua was told to do with the Israelites. But we couldn't join in the actual march, but as they come by, we could pray for them and cheer and chant and everything else. So walking up Pennsylvania Avenue was absolutely a phenomenal experience. I've never experienced anything like that. It was surreal. The Christian hymns being sung, the patriotic hymns being sung, or patriotic songs. It was just an incredible experience walking up the Capitol. And so we get up to the reflection pond again, and we notice that chain link fence is gone and people were up on the lawn. And from here, I'll let her take over, because this is her naive moment.
Yeah, so this is now my naive moment. We're walking up, and I realized all the fencing is down. Not just down, it's gone. They have opened it up for all the patriots to come all the way up to the Capitol to hear all the speakers. Or so I thought. So I turned to Mark all excited, and I go, oh my gosh, they're going to let us get all the way up to the Capitol. Because I never would have thought my government would do what they did that day. It just shows our naivety that we thought nothing but the best for our government. So for everybody that thought, why did those people go anyway? They had no business going to the Capitol. My question to you is, why were you not there? Because everything I've read, Old and New Testament, we're supposed to be very much involved in our politics. And that is why we're losing our country, is we're letting liars speak into our lives, and we're receiving it as truth instead of taking our thoughts captive. So I put it back because I'm going to tell you that was one of the most painful things of everything I've been through. It's when and this didn't come from my church home, but I come from a strong Southern community that just absolutely loves the Lord. So it doesn't matter what church anybody goes to, the Christian community just knows each other. And I heard from more Christians that for 2 months after our arrest, going, well, honey, you shouldn't have been there in the first place. And I'm thinking, shame on you. Shame on you. Did you read the Old Testament at all? What are you thinking? That devastated me. We've got to change our mindset in this country. We're supposed to have a kingdom vision. This isn't about you and your comfort. You know what I figured out through this? Just a real quick sermon moment. I never saw it before until I got arrested. This nation automatically assumes that they're Christians because they're Americans. That I knew. But what I didn't know the name of the God they served. But I do now.
We figured it out.
It's a God of comfort. If you're sitting at home going, well, I can't lose my job. You sure about that? Who gave you that job? Because I really believe my God was just rewarding me for my obedience. They weren't giving me that paycheck. I've never went without a meal. You can see it on me. Our God is a provider. We don't need nothing from this government. Nothing. And our rights were granted to us from our Father. So, I'm not trying to rally the troops, but I'm trying to wake up my brothers and sisters because we have fell asleep. We got complacent and we fell asleep. And it is time to wake up and stand with one another in unity and recognize our value in Christ, that He has called us to stand together. You do know you are your brother's keeper, don't you?
So we figured this out about May, actually, and we were at an event in South Florida, and there was 4,000 people there. A lot of great speakers. Y'all would know all of them, or vast majority of them. But everybody in that auditorium was just rah, 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 we're going to do whatever. And it dawned on us that most of those people are going to go home. They're going to put their fat little keister in that chair, and they're going to turn on their TV, and they're going to complain that someone else needs to go do something about that. We're the someone else's. So anyway, get off our soapbox there.
So back to my story. So I'm walking up to the Capitol with Mark, and they're going to let us get all the way up front to the barricades. And what that looks like, that furthest back arrow you see closest to the Capitol. So what that looks like is they're bike racks. When I say barrier, I say that loosely, like surely our government could have afforded better, but it didn't dawn on me. But anyway, there were bike racks all along there, and there were Capitol Police lined up, kind of at a parade rest all the way down the line. So it's very obvious we don't want you to go past here. And I wanted to be all the way up front. In fact, I was thinking to myself, I might even get seen on TV.
We did.
We did. So anyway, at some point, and we are real close to, I'm trying to see it on there.
Yeah, the media review tower that's like dead center of the Capitol. If this screen was bigger, you could see it a little bit better. But As we're going up, off to the north side, which is this side of the Capitol, off to the north side, out in the lawn, the police were lobbing flashbang grenades out in there. For those that have been in the military, using an M203 grenade launcher that is orange, so it's civilian use or police use. But anyway, they were lobbing them out in an area. That'll come in handy here in a little bit. We just figured there was some sort of ruckus out there that they were trying to quell.
And there was pepper spray, being sprayed somewhere. And it would waft its way over. And, and hindsight being 2020, things look very different now. But up in that media tower, there was a guy up there. And when this pepper spray was going to come across the crowd, he'd be like, take cover, okay, move forward. He's like the commander of the whole front of this deal. I don't really know what his deal was. I didn't take much thought into it. It didn't matter to me. Me and Mark's heads were wrapped in our Trump scarves. And I look back at it, it really looked funny. But that was to keep the tear gas off of us. And my thought was they're making sure you don't go past that barricade. The Capitol is right there. So we decide we're going to go into prayer. And if y'all have heard of a holy huddle, as Texans we probably have, but that's what we were doing, was this right here. And we're in prayer. Every now and then we'd break out of the prayer and chant something, USA, we'd go back into prayer, And honestly, we kind of giggle about it because I remember at one point even turning to each other and going, what do you do at a protest? We really didn't know, but we knew that prayer was definitely needed. And that's what we naturally revert to. While we're in prayer, with my hand over his shoulder, I feel a strike on my hand. And I come out of that prayer and I jerk my hand back. And as soon as I do, I look over, I hear Mark yell out, and I look over, and guys, he has his back to that barricade, and he is holding the back of his neck, and those officers are just waylaying on him with their batons. Now remember, I was just in prayer with him. I know he didn't do nothing wrong, and now they're attacking him. I don't think two thoughts, and not a second do I take a thought captive. Because if you remember that picture of us at 16 years old, I met him when I was 14. I started dating him at 16. I married him at 19. That means my world. And I'm seeing him get beat. I jump into that police line without a thought. They grab my arms. And they try to rip me over the barricade. And had the crowd not have saw what was going on, I probably wouldn't be here today. But the crowd grabbed me like I was a rag doll, and they ripped me back so hard that I flew about 10 to 20 feet back. And when I did, the police breached their own barricades and come after us with pepper spray. Now, I'm blind in one eye. I really am that dog Lucky. You know what I'm talking about? You've seen the ad for them in the paper. Everything's happened to them. And so, they pull me back. I'm blind in one eye. They pepper spray us. Now I've lost total vision. And this gentleman, I think he might have been one of them that pulled me back. He goes, here, put your hands on my shoulders. Mark puts his hands on my shoulders. We make a train, and we make our way down and around to a retaining wall. And there, everyone's just flushing our eyes, pouring water on us, giving us Visine, really trying to help us get our vision clear. But because I'm blind, it takes a little bit longer for your eyes to metabolize it, as I learned, because everyone else seemed to recover quickly, and here I was still waiting. So anyway, that's when we head back to the hotel, because now we're sopping wet, and it was a bitter cold day. It was so bitter cold. It was sleeting, it was super windy, and it was that chill that cuts through you like a knife. So we headed back to the hotel, and this is what they're really mad about. I do not believe they're mad about what they're accusing us of. Because I believe they set us up for that. They're mad because we made a Facebook post that infuriated them. And so if you go to justice.gov, this is a lesson for you. You can actually Google Capitol Breach and go to justice.gov. You can pull up charging documents on every single one of the J6ers. One of them is called a statement of facts, which is pretty funny because it isn't facts, but it's their facts, okay? So anyway, when you pull that up, on our charging documents, there'll be a couple pages of their accusations of what they're accusing us of. And then you got about another, I don't know how many pages. The majority of the document is them complaining about things we said on our social media. And what it was is Mark had done a live feed or a Facebook post or something, a video, to where he's like, we got past the barricades, we got past the cops, we went in the Capitol, something like that, referring to the Patriots. It's kind of like if you're rooting for your team. The Patriots were our team. And I was laughing. I still kind of get tickled when I picture it in my head, and I know it's not funny, don't get me wrong. But they look like, when we look back at the Capitol, they look like ants climbing up the Capitol. And in my twisted humor head, that was just funny to me, how they look like ants going up the Capitol. Now, at this point, we don't know they went in the Capitol. So I'll turn the rest over to you.
So we head back to the hotel because we're sopping wet and we're freezing cold. And we get back to the hotel and we decide to take hot showers, which is a rational thought. How many have been pepper sprayed? Anybody in here? You have? Okay. We learned a very valuable lesson that day. It's a life lesson for y'all too. If you ever get pepper sprayed, do not take a hot shower. All of that pepper spray runs all over your body in places it's not supposed to go. So she was in the bathtub, I was in the shower. She started complaining about being on fire. And just about the same time I started becoming on fire. So I turned off the hot water and the cold water started giving me instant relief. So I yelled at her to drain the water and, run only cold. And so anyway, I got done with my shower first. I got out, I turned on the TV. The only thing worth watching was Fox News, if it's that worth watching. But that's when we learned that people had actually went into the Capitol. And a little bit later, they started talking about a young woman or a young girl that had been shot. At the time, we didn't know who that was. We do now. But after that, we started getting the messages on our phone of the city being on lockdown for the rest of the night.
Which is a point we'd like to make. If they could do an alert through every single individual's phone at 4 o'clock in the evening that there's going to be a curfew at 6 p.m., why could they have not sent that message through the phone to say, do not enter the Capitol grounds? It's a restricted area and you will be arrested.
So what no one knew is they revoked all the permits that morning for all the protests that were going to be around the Capitol. They didn't tell anybody. And they didn't tell anybody that they actually had federal provocateurs, federally hired provocateurs, to go start tearing down all the barricades before the Trump protesters got there. So when we got there were no barricades to be found. So anyway, the rest of our night there in D.C. and the next morning, we were with a friend. If we can bring that back up, I'll come to this. Well, okay, that's our mug shots from Collin County, by the way. We now have mug shots. This picture in the lower corner, right-hand corner, up on that media review tower is in the gray, you can't really see him from where y'all are at, but he's an Antifa member, an environmental reporter, very left-leaning. He was filming up and down. We have this now because of our discovery. But he was filming up and down that barricade, and right before me and Jalise get attacked, he stops and focuses directly on us and actually even zooms in a little bit on me and her. Right before the attack. So they actually messed up in their discovery and sent us that shows everything that happened with us that day, and we were, in fact, doing what we were supposed to be doing. And we were, in fact, praying with my back to the barricade. We can't show you that, unfortunately, because the government has classified all of their evidence, so y'all can't see what it is.
So the reason he says they mess up is you'll hear us talk more about it in a bit, but these trials that are occurring in D.C. are pretty much staged. What we've found is they hold back Brady evidence constantly. Brady evidence is basically anything that has the potential to exonerate us by law, they have to give it to us. But as you're seeing, if you really dig deep in your news networks, is that after they've been sentenced and served their sentence, then the a video will come out
Lo and behold,
showing.
here's a video showing this guy totally in another spot, but yet the government videos showed him over here. They're actually releasing the real videos after the trials, and it doesn't help.
There's just a lot of things occurring with evidence, like withholding it from us, drowning it in unimportant, things that they download to the box that we don't necessarily need.
So they give us 2 terabytes of information, a dump, and you have to sort through it because, like she said, there'll be a file marked this, and you open it up, and there'll be a bunch of just junk that doesn't apply to you. And that's how I found that video. It's actually labeled watermark, or all videos are watermarked, was the file name. And for some reason, it triggered me. I give glory to God for that, but it triggered me to click on that one and look at it. And it was that video showing us doing nothing wrong. Now, whether they'll let us have it in our trial or not, that's a different story, because usually they're not letting any exculpatory evidence in
They'll
the
say
trials.
things like the video's too long, it can't be played, or they'll let the video in but not the sound, or they'll let you do still pictures out of the video but not the actual video.
Or they'll claim that it could potentially compromise some confidential human sources or something like that, so they won't let the videos in. So anyway, we're going to move on here. January 6th, by the numbers. Let's see, did I skip one?
You skipped it.
No, I didn't. We're good. We're good.
Okay.
January 6th, by the numbers. So far there are, this is of the October 3rd, so just a few days old. There's so far 1,182 of us J6ers. I guess I can look up here at this screen. Keep looking back. Prisoners currently, there's about 205. In the D.C. Gulag, we call the federal prison up in D.C. the Gulag because of the way they're treating all of the J6ers that are up there. There's 42 of them. That number varies kind of day to day as people are held for pretrial or they're put there for holding until they're shipped off to their other prison that they're going to be at. House arrest, there's about 13 of us right now. One of them's fixing to go to prison. Which is a sad case in that one.
So that's something else you've seen with this that you have never seen in history, and that is people going to prison for up to 6 months for misdemeanor. And so what they do is they're doing something called split sentencing, where they might put them on an ankle monitor at home under house arrest for 6 months, then they'll put them in prison for 3 months, then they'll put them on 3 years of probation for a misdemeanor. And they're getting away with it, all except for the lowest misdemeanor. They were doing that for people that pled to a protesting charge, and they have come back and ruled that you cannot do that with them. So, of course, there'd already been probably 300 of them that had already served that sentence. So I guess it's just sorry for your luck.
So plea deals, we currently have 592 that we know of. And then sentenced have been 627. That number changes every day. I think last week we had 4 or 5 of them get sentenced.
And here's what we want to elaborate on with this. So many people say, well, if you're innocent, why'd you take a plea deal? So I'm going to tell you our story a little bit. We have been offered 2 different plea deals. When we were looking to refuse the second plea deal, the FBI went and started canvassing my husband's sister's neighborhood that happens to live in a pretty elite neighborhood in Dallas. Now, they knew where she lived, but instead of going to visit her, they just went and visited all of her neighbors to ask if they know her. And then they went to her house and questioned her and threatened her, told her that she would be charged for, I think it was interfering with an investigation, or they made up stuff. There wasn't even a reason for it. It's all because she had sent a text to Mark over that video he posted on Facebook and said, "Hey, brother, I understand that you believe in your cause, but that's really unbecoming of you to have that video up." So he took it down. And now she's impeding an investigation.
And by the way, I was tampering with evidence because I took a video off of Facebook, like it actually ever goes away.
Which was before we ever got charged. So you've got to have a charge before you have evidence. So anyway, they do things like that. They threaten. And what they did with her is said, well, you're going to want to tell your brother to take that plea deal. So that's why so many people take the plea deals. For instance, Mark and I, we have 9 federal charges, 2 of which are felonies. We're looking at more than 40 years in prison. 40 years. Because we disagreed with the government. Because we had the audacity to say, there's enough evidence of a stolen election, we would like you to investigate. So these people don't want to spend 40 years in prison. They're scared. Rightfully so. So they settle for plea bargains. They take the plea bargains they offered us was still with a felony in it. And we just decided, you know what? You've already showed us your demonic tendencies. We are not making a deal with the devil. And if that means I spend the rest of my life in prison with Jesus by my side, that's what we will do. But we're not making deals with the devil. But I can honestly say that's a hard stance to take, people. So that's why you got so many plea deals coming through there.
So how many people died that day? Does anybody know?
Throw a number out.
1, 5, or 6?
10.
3?
I like hearing that 10 number because that tells me that you definitely heard what the mainstream media was saying. Mainstream media led you to believe that there were like 9 police officers killed that day. Just to clear the record, no officers were killed that day. None.
4 people died that day. Most of y'all have heard this story. Y'all know who he is? Brian Sicknick. Brian Sicknick's the police officer that actually died the next day. He's the one that they claim that one of the protesters beat him to death with a fire extinguisher, except his body had no marks or trauma marks on it from the coroner. He actually died from being neglected. Protesters noticed he wasn't feeling well, he wasn't acting right. And so they took him back up to the police line and said, hey, y'all need to do something with him. He's not right. There's something wrong. The police just took him and leaned him up against the Capitol and told him to rest. After a little bit, he got up and kind of went around. You've probably seen it on Tucker Carlson if you've seen that episode, I think his last episode that he did on Fox. The next day, he died from health complications from that stroke. And then here's the next one. Everybody knows who she is, right? Ashley Babbitt. This is the young woman that was shot. 14-year Air Force veteran. 5 foot tall, 100 pounds, soaking wet.
Now, most of you have seen where she tried to climb through a window, right? And then what you saw is her murderer, Michael Byrd. He was a Capitol police officer. He had 2 prior marks on his record for leaving his service weapon loaded in the bathroom. But what you may not realize or think about, and I don't know what happened, I can't make out like I do, but I'm going to impute a thought in your head to get out the idea that it could have only been that she was up to nefarious things. She was an Air Force veteran, 14 years. When you watch all that video, you see her walk up to those double doors where there's police officers. You see two guys come in and start trying to bust through the door. She starts screaming with her cute little tiny self. She looked like a toddler having a tantrum, bless her heart. Why aren't you doing something? Do something.
So the
She's
four cops that
screaming.
were standing right there.
And they're doing nothing. And she's screaming at them to do something. Then she goes over to the window that she ended up climbing through. And there's a guy breaking the window, and she hauls off and punches him, knocks his glasses off his face. This is all on the video. And then she starts to try to climb through the window, and she's shot dead. Now, here's what I want to point out to you. If you're a 14-year veteran, you're seeing the cops sit there and do nothing while people try to bust through the Capitol and destroy it. And you've got a solid, thick crowd behind you. Where are you going to go if you've figured out it's a psyop? Where are you going to go? I personally believe that's what Ashley did that day. I believe it was her only place to go. And my question for you is, because this is pathetic that our nation is not in an absolute outrage about this. Because she was unarmed. She's 5 foot tall, 100 pounds soaking wet. This guy's ever bent 250. Do you really think he couldn't have took her? Could he not have taken her down? She's on the other side of a wall. There was no warning yelled to her to stop, I'll shoot. Come out with your hands up. There's no warning. All of you military, all of you police officers, you know that is part of what you have to do. You've been trained. If it's not life or death in that moment, you have to shout a warning. Why is he not being tried for murder? Why did he get an award for it? Why has he received a promotion? And we just sit back, well, she shouldn't have been in the Capitol.
Anybody know who she is? You're exactly right. This is Roseanne Boylan. You've seen loop video almost every time they talk about January 6th mainstream media. They show the same video over and over and over, or at least there's about 5 of them that they loop through. One of them is the big issue at the tunnel. And
by the way, y'all are seeing the same loops over and over and over. There were about 5 hot spots in the Capitol where it really got heated fighting. You've seen them over and over and over. The whole place wasn't like that. You're seeing the 5 loops over and over and over.
so Roseanne Boylan went up to the Upper West Tunnel, the side that we were on, much later after me and her had already been long past. And she was up there in this picture up here in the upper right is a young black man laying there too. His name's Philip Anderson. He lives over there in Dallas. Great kid. Anyway, they met there at the Upper West Tunnel, and Trump supporters started going up the stairs there in the Upper West Tunnel, and the cops just flooded it with CS gas or tear gas. And also they have these things like super soaker water guns that are full of pepper spray, and they just started hosing everybody down, throwing those CS canisters in that tunnel. And the crowd panicked and ran out of the tunnel. Well, it caused a stampede, and Philip and Roseanne got trampled. And they're laying down there in the bottom of this tunnel as the cops keep pumping more CS gas and pepper spray in there. And people are just piled all over them too. Well, Jake Lang, the guy down here in the lower right that's giving CPR to Roseanne Boylan, grabs Philip's feet and pulls him out where he can start breathing. Goes back to get Roseanne Boylan and pulls her out eventually. But as he's pulling her out, Lila Morris over here, DC Metro Police, has got a stick, like a large walking stick that she had taken from a protester, and she is literally just chopping wood on Roseanne Boylan as hard as she could, to the point that the stick breaks and goes flying off the scene of the video. CNN actually aired that and broke that story by accident on that day. And a guy from Decatur, Texas, kept watching that loop over and over and over. He saved it on his computer because something kept flagging him. Something wasn't right. And that's when he noticed that stick go flying off. So he started messing around with the computer and doing more research and found out the officer that was doing it, the whole stick incident. Philip was holding her hand when she died. Her hand went limp in his when she died. Philip almost died. If it wasn't for Jake Lang, he would be dead right now.
So to fill in real quick on Jake Lang, we're now over 1,006 days. I don't know where we're at. About 1,010 days since January 6th that Jake Lang has sat in the D.C. gulag without a trial. He is obviously being held up under the Patriot Act, and he was due to go to trial this was about 2 weeks ago, about this time. And Philip was going to be one of his key witnesses because Philip got his life saved by Jake Lang and knew Jake Lang tried to save Roseanne Boylan's life and what all had occurred. So any fighting that was going on between the protesters and police was over saving this woman's life. But then the FBI decided after 2.5 years that it was time to go arrest Philip Anderson, their key witness, and they canceled the trial and said they may not even schedule another one. So that is lesson number 3. Just because you have a constitution don't mean you're going to get to enjoy it, because the minute they deem you a domestic terrorist and they get to make up the rules of what defines a domestic terrorist, you're now up under the Patriot Act and you have no constitution.
Y'all remember that Patriot Act, right? After 9/11, George Bush signed it. It's all going to keep us nice and safe from terrorists. Well, when they give you that tag, you no longer have constitutional rights. Here's the 4 that died that day. Benjamin Phillips, Kevin Greason are the other 2. Remember me telling you about that area where they were lobbing the grenades out there just randomly out on the west side? These 2 gentlemen right here got hit in the chest by those grenades when they went off. It killed them both from a heart attack. We know for sure Kevin Greason did. Benjamin Phillips, we're pretty sure he did. The videos are kind of hard to watch in that area. Go ahead, move on.
We're happy to announce this one is not dead. This is Victoria White. Victoria White is alive, and fortunately she is well. Victoria White was in that same tunnel later after Roseanne Boylan, or it could have been before. We really don't know for sure, but she was in that same tunnel. She managed to make her way all the way up in that tunnel, completely infiltrated around with police. Now, I don't know how she got there. I don't know all the details. What I do know is that Officer Bagshaw almost beat her to death. On video, everything has receipts. Everything we're telling you, you can look up by going to stophate.com and looking through their videos. Victoria White was punched in the face somewhere between 42 and 48 times by Officer Bagshaw. She went unconscious, and so every time they would let go of her, she would fall to the ground, and they would pick her back up and go at it again, all while all those officers you're seeing around her in that picture are waylaying on her with their batons. She stayed unconscious so long that at some point, I guess they took her into the Capitol. All she remembers is being dumped out on the streets that night in D.C. without a coat and without shoes, and being told you can go get help, but you cannot go to a fire station and you cannot go to a police department. And she don't know what happened to her. She's learning what happened to her by her videos.
Anybody know who these 2 gentlemen are? Matthew Perna is probably the most well-known J6er that committed suicide. He agreed to a plea deal. This was about almost a year and a half ago now. He agreed to a plea deal. And he went before the judge, accepted the plea deal. Judge slammed the gavel down, and he went back home. A few days later, he came to his understanding that in his plea deal left wide open for the government to come back and add more charges. So a few days later, the government did in fact do just that. They added the 18 USC 1512. About 300 of us J6ers have that charge.
And then added a terrorist enhancement.
Terrorist enhancement to it. So the 1512 law, me and Jalise have that. That's one of our felonies. To give you all a little background on it, anybody remember Enron? Okay, so Enron, Washington, the Congress was investigating Enron for their insider trading and all the other shenanigans they were doing, while Enron was down in Houston just shredding paper like a pack of beavers out in the forest. And so Congress, after that, passed 18 USC 1512 to make that a felony to interrupt Congress during an official proceeding. And it's a paper shredding charge. But somehow they've morphed it to fit all of us J6ers. Well, they added that to Matthew Perna. That evening, after they added that charge, he promptly went home and killed himself, hung himself. The next young gentleman is the latest suicide victim. He went from Utah. He went with his uncle to J6, and they came and arrested him. It's about a month and a half ago now. They arrested him, and after his arraignment hearing, he went home, shot himself in the head. His father found him bleeding out in the shed out back behind the house.
He was only charged with the 4 misdemeanors. So I'm here to say, because so many people say, why would he do that over just misdemeanors? You don't understand the weight of the federal government. It is a mighty weight. And you ask how we stand here so strong when we've got 9. And I'm going to tell you it is because we're covered in the blood of Jesus Christ.
Purely by the grace of God.
He is carrying this weight for me and Mark. He showed us early on that they can't take our joy. We have to give it. And we decided early on we're not giving it. It's that simple. But we can walk by that faith. But these younger kids do not have those skills, especially if they don't know our Lord and Savior, how to lean into Him. So there has been 9 supposed suicides. The numbers are a little sketchy, and it's also a little questionable on whether they're suicides or not. 4 of them are police officers. 2 of them, the family swears up and down there's no way they committed suicide. They do believe they got suicided. So that tells you how ugly this situation has gotten behind the scenes. You don't comply, you die.
So who are we? Well, after me and Jalise were arrested, we were at home for about 2 months, just absolutely in shock. Is the only way I can really describe it. But living on a farm, late April, May, early June, weather's really beautiful. We spent a lot of time sitting on the front porch, reading scripture, praying, reading more scripture, praying. God put on our hearts to do something for other J6ers. Me and her are very fortunate, and we're very blessed. About a year before J6, God put on our hearts to get on the Dave Ramsey plan and pay everything off, everything, and we did. We liquidated everything to pay off all of our debt. April 1st, 20 days before we were arrested, made the last debt payment. We were done.
We had $30,000 in a savings account for the first time in our life. So here's where I'm going to tell you, guys, this was no accident on us. This was all, we were called for this. Because when we had to retain attorneys, our retainer fee was $30,000. Just what we had built up. We thought it was going to be for a retirement, but God had something way bigger planned.
So God put on our hearts to do something for all the other J6ers, because what we did know is that everybody we ran into that day was Christian. They all praised God. They all professed Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And not every J6er was. We're not fools, but everyone we seem to have run into all had the same.
Very heavy presence of Christians
Yes.
that day. And I'm just gonna tell y'all, I say it all the time, but He equips those He called. And He really has equipped us for this. What me and Mark realized is we couldn't fix our situation. but we could darn sure make it better for someone else in our situation. And we decided that brings us the most joy. That's what we're going to do. So we started American Patriot Relief so that we can help the other January 6th defendants that weren't so lucky. They're still raising children. They're in a mountain of debt. They're still, you remember what it's like when you're raising your kids. You don't have $1, let alone paying retainer fees. So we just decided we're going to use this organization and we're going to help them as much as we can. So there's been 2 homes pulled out of foreclosure. We have helped make house payments. We have helped, buy a birthday gift for their child on their Sweet 16. We pay to fly them to and from their trial and their
Paid to
sentencing
have
hearings.
wisdom teeth removed from one of the.
Wisdom teeth removal surgeries. We pay for whatever they need. And it's not that we're any better off. We just happen to have been debt free. And we truly, truly understand. Me and Mark had to live off of faith. I was a stay-at-home mom. So the numbers never added up for us. So that was one area we always walked well in, is trusting the Lord to provide for us. And now we get to bless others by helping to provide for them too.
So we spent about a year and a half after our arrest trying to figure out how to start an organization. And everybody I ran into, I even ran for Texas House District 68, where we live, which really, really upset the government when I did that. They actually called our lawyers and told them, you need to shut your boy up. He's causing us problems.
The actual verbiage to our attorneys, you're going to want to shut your boy up. He's backing us in a corner.
So I thought,
Government,
I must be in the right spot. So anyway, we spent about a year and a half trying to start this until a friend of ours, Terry Anderson, was arrested on unrelated J6 charges, but he was SWAT teamed also for his work down on the border with an organization. And anyway, when he got out of prison, he spent 3 weeks there on pretrial. We went and sat and talked to him and just witnessing to him. He's a Christian, but just sharing the word with him and praying and just doing what Christians are supposed to do. And he looked at me and he goes, Mark, I really feel like God wants us to do something to help other people. And I was like,
and he's a racehorse, so
Yes.
he made it happen.
So yeah, Terry's a racehorse. The gate was open. He took off. We formed American Patriot Relief a few weeks later. And one of the things that we did, one of the first things we did is we started this hotline, 833-SAVED-J6. The reason why we did it is because of those suicides. We wanted some place for the J6ers, actually she did, for them to call and just have a shoulder to cry on, someone to scream at and cuss at, whatever it needed to be, just let them vent themselves, and also for help.
And let them know who their Savior is. Let them know that he's walking through this with them, that this is not an accident. He was called. Let them know that the Lord trusted them to tread in his footsteps. Because it's an honor. It's all in how you look at it. So we started the hotline so that we could bless and encourage and restore and speak life and really get them on a positive foot.
And share Jesus.
All
a lot of
volunteer,
Jesus.
all volunteer ran, 24/7 hotline. I'm going to go down. So we also started an Adopt a J6er program. You'll find this in the back at the table. You can actually pick your incarcerated January 6th defendant and help pay commissary to them, because that is something we do at American Patriot Relief. Reason we do that is there's been things like Windex being put in the food, laundry coming back from the laundry with feces on it, any type of misbehavior that can be dealt out on these guys is being dealt out. So we try to make their life as comfortable as possible and send a very clear message to our government that we support them.
And to take the stress off the families, because a lot of the J6ers are Christians. A lot of those, the younger families, are traditional role model families. Mom staying home raising the kids, dad goes off to work. Well, now dad's sitting in the prison, usually up there in D.C. Who's taking care of those children? Who's taking care of mom? Who's fixing that car? Who's helping her on house payments and everything else? That's where we come in, and we're asking for your help on the Adopt a J6er program.
So how can you help? Well, obviously by adopting a January 6th defendant would be very helpful. But we have also got and it's not our program, I want to be clear about it, but there's some great organizations out there that we work alongside because we see the wonderful work that they're doing. Patriot Mail Project, if you go to patriotmailproject.com, you can actually write any January 6th defendant that has been arrested, whether they're in prison or out of prison. And this is really important because if you're being told by the government that you're a terrorist and you're getting hate mail and death threats like Mark and I did, and you believe the whole world hates you and your neighbors are turning their back on you and your family don't want to talk to you anymore and tells you they'll send you flowers in prison, it's nice to know that y'all are supporting us. So write them, give them a letter. The other thing is the research. Educate yourself. For the love of God, y'all, don't let what we're doing here stay in these four walls. Get this out. Go tell everybody you can talk to about Mark and Jalise on this stage that them kids got in all kinds of trouble and you wouldn't believe what the government's done to them. Tell the story. Because we hadn't been to our sentencing yet. We hadn't been to trial. Every word you're hearing us say will get used against us in our trial. We have truly laid our lives down to protect y'all by educating
Tonight, this is going
you.
out on Facebook Live, and I guarantee you in about 2 or 3 weeks, we'll get another dump of evidence.
And
This
it'll be in
recording
it.
will be in there.
But it is worth it. It is worth it because, see, I'm already on the hook. I can't fix it. But I can sure slow that hook down from catching you. But don't waste it. I'm giving you a gift. Mark is giving you a gift of educating you. Go out and tell everyone you know. This is your season. The Lord is separating the sheep and the goats. Choose this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. You choose it and you walk it, and he tells you 365 times not to fear. So why are you afraid? You let tyranny be tyranny. You're not going to nice your way out of it. We're already in. So you have to have a plan, but you don't know to make a plan if you're not informed. Go to stophate.com, get informed, see what we're telling you. Don't take our word for it. Go look at these videos. They're there.
Yep. Watch these videos. For news, for J6 News, if you're on Telegram, you can go to the prisoner's record. Stuff happens here about 2 or 3 days before you see it anywhere else in the news. This is straight, raw news coming out of prisoner's record. Very good. Also, J6 Patriot News. You can go there and keep up on it. Then the American Gulag Chronicles. So the original 44 put in the DC Gulag, and we call it the Gulag because of the way the prisoners are getting treated, their food's getting tainted and all that sort of stuff, just like you'd expect in Soviet Russia. But anyway, Prisoners, the American Gulag Chronicles is a book. A guy named Tim Rivers out of Florida started writing J6ers through the Patriot Mail Project, and he started getting letters back. And these letters were breaking his heart every time he would get them and read them. And so he reached out to Patriot Mail Project to reach out to other people writing J6ers for them to send in the letters that come back to him. And he collated them into a book that tells their story, and it's actually got original paintings and all that that they did with locks of their hair and food, like carrots and stuff for dyes.
So it is each of their stories, it's letters they've written, and it's pictures that they have made. And just so you know, it's on very limited supply. They will not order more. This is probably your last chance to get that book. They're releasing a second version in December, and I believe it's called The Art of Incarceration. And what it is it's going to be just their artwork. So y'all be sure to get that so that you can educate people with it. Mark and I are happy to sign it. But get that book and help us out. And it goes to another organization too, but again, we partner with them because they're doing good work.
So AmericanPatriotRelief.org is our website. You can find us on Telegram at American Patriot Relief and on Twitter or X, however you want to call it, at APR_foundation. We are a 100% volunteer organization, even me and her. Our travel here does not come from, we don't get per diem or anything. We pay for it out of our own pocket. because God told us to be his hands and feet. And I want his blessings, not man's blessings. So we do ask for your donations. We've got cool shirts like this one right here. Well, y'all have seen it from back there. Jesus was accused of insurrection too. That comes from Luke chapter 24. And we got some really cool T-shirts like the Trader Joe, not Trader Joe. But anyway, help us be his hands and feet.
And most of it, so I have one other request for how to help us, and this was the big one. I saved the biggest for last. I've got a banner program. Now, I couldn't bring a banner tonight because I've been blessed that I've sold out. I've got more due in on Monday, I believe. These banners are done with kind of Christmassy colors, and it says, "Free our January 6th defendants." AmericanPatriotRelief.org with a QR code. I got a challenge for y'all. I'm asking that you get on your Chamber of Commerce website, you look when your Christmas parade is, and every parade you can enroll in, you buy my banner for $65. I know it's a lot of money. It's a donation, not to us. I'm going to pay for the banner out of pocket. I'm going to donate it over to Patriot Mail Project. They're having a Christmas program where they pay for the Christmas gifts of all the incarcerated January 6th defendants that now daddy's in prison and they can't afford Christmas. I'm going to donate your donation to them. And then I'm going to foot the bill for the banner so that you'll have it. I'm asking you at the happiest time of the year, when for once we're not being mean to each other, that you would walk through that parade proudly and tell them people, I stand with them. I stand with them. And for all you doubters that say, well, I don't know what they did, that they might have done bad things. They might have. Here's two things you need to concern yourself with. One, they went there to defend our constitutional rights. Two, their civil rights got violated doing it. What else do you need to know? So I'm asking you to stand with us, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. See, we got this shame factor going with it, and the enemy's working through it in the darkness because we're all staying silent. But when you bring it to the light, the darkness has to flee. So I'm asking you as Christians to bring it to the light. And I'm going to tell you what happened, because me and Mark did it. We finally decided, I'm not sitting in your shame. I've read Max Lucado's book about Punchinello. I know them dots aren't going to stick to me if I know who made me. And so what I did is I come into the light and I found out, oh, I don't have all the haters I thought I did. You know what it did? It freed everyone to come and rally around me and support me. That's what happened when I come into the light.
It freed those who are too scared to stand up to then come out into the light.
They're going to
And
come
then
up to you
stand
with that
with us.
banner.
Yes.
And they're going to say, you know, I stand with them too. I was just scared to say something. I'm so glad to see you there. So I'm asking you, buy a banner and walk through your parade with it. Hang it on your float. Hang it on your trailer with your hay, and get 50 kids to ride in the hay ride. Okay? Stand with us and take pictures. And then tag American Patriot Relief anywhere you can find us. Send it to my cell phone. You want my cell phone number? Everyone and their dog has it. I'll give it to you in the back. Tag me in those pictures and I'll post them. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this darkness into light. And we're going to stand together and we're going to protect our brothers and sisters that are hanging on a cross for us right now. But we need you to be willing to stand with us and see all the lovers that are going to come up to you and go, I'm so glad to see you stand with them. I do too. And it's going to build a bond. And you're going to get one or two haters that are going to go, I can't believe you'd carry that banner. Them insurrectionists tore up our Capitol.
But that's good, because you know who you need to pray for.
And you know, you already have an answer. I'm going to give you your answer. Remember this. You're going to say, yeah, but you know what? My daddy told me in the Word of God that when you did it for the least of these, you did it for me. And one of those was to visit the prisoners. Stand with them. Even if you don't agree, stand with them. Love them. be the hands and feet of Christ. Without love, you're just a banging gong. That's all I'm asking from you. So consider it, and if so, you'll pre-purchase a banner. I'll ship it to you, okay? And thank y'all so much for your time tonight.
Any
Thank
questions?
you. Yes, sir. Way in the back.
Or you'll have all the information on the screen here on your own computer or phone, okay? A couple things I want to mention. Gary Williams is a regular, big guy, big overall. I was at his funeral this morning, that's why I got here 5 minutes before the meeting. So please remember Gary Williams' brother. He's a great guy, great patriot. These two are real time today American people. Let me tell you, look at 20 years each they're looking at, to not take a plea bargain and get out for 6 months or whatever, that takes, I don't know if I'd have enough guts for that, enough grit. Yes?
They told us that they're now looking at 50 years each.
50 years each, my God, this is outrageous. Yeah. Who in here has heard of the Reichstag fire? See a show of hands. Okay. The Reichstag fire is a very famous event in world history. Within a few months of Adolf Hitler taking power in Germany in January of 1933, the Reichstag, which is their parliament building, it's where the Reichstag is their parliament, was burned to the ground. The fire started real rapidly in multiple places. There was accelerant involved. They convicted a Dutch communist of setting the fire. He had a shirt and some matches with him. In other words, that the Reichstag fire, after that, there was a bill presented to the Reichstag that it was called the Enabling Act. The Enabling Act, what that meant was that enabled Adolf Hitler to be the law of Germany. It was renewed up until Germany collapsed. But this is what I think J6 is. This is our Reichstag fire. This was put together by the government to give them an excuse. There's now a little over, about 1,300 J6ers. I just read yesterday, the Justice Department has announced there's going to be thousands and thousands more arrests.
The FBI is paying people off to rat people off.
Yeah. So remember the Reichstag fire. If you when you get home, type that into your computer and you can get the full story. There's no definite proof, but Hermann Goering, the fat head of the Luftwaffe, his offices, there were tunnels that led directly to the Reichstag. So it's almost a certain fact that the fire was set by the Nazis so Hitler could get the Enabling Act, and that's when they went from being a sort of democratic government to an absolute totalitarian government under Adolf Hitler. Everybody know, I heard the governor speak last night down in Oklahoma City, and I think you're aware he sent some of our local troops down to help Governor Abbott down in, you ready? Baja, Oklahoma. Let's all repeat that. Baja, Oklahoma. There you go. Anyway, he sounds like he's pretty solid on hanging in on this. I've had a lot of people wondering, there was a spark in 1861 in Charleston Harbor at Fort Sumter, and I've had dozens of people tell me that they are afraid that is what may be happening down in Texas. Folks, we got to solve the situation, but for God's sakes, we want to put every ounce of strength into the political solution.
They're calling it Texas already.
What?
You're already calling it Texas.
Well, folks, there's only two ways to solve the problems we've got in America right now. One of them is a political system, and the other is violence and blood in the street. Let me tell you, I don't want to be living in a civil war in my old age. Amen. Folks, so we've got a good system here. OK2A in the last 12 years has gotten over 160 pro-liberty and pro-2A bills. This is one of the best states in the union to live in, to maintain your freedom. So folks,
But we gotta make it better.
yes, exactly. That's what this is all about, is to make it better. And the way we do that is each and every one of you get involved. Emails, handwritten letters to our representatives, phone calls to the representatives. Folks, you cannot overdo this. And even if it's not your senator or your representative, a lot of those guys have their sights on some statewide office in the future. So you can also respond to those people. Folks, I can't overemphasize how important this is. We've got to save this country, and that's where we're at right now. We've got to save our republic, our Constitution. I'm sorry the meeting ran a little longer than normal, but everybody, I think, was enthralled with that video. So, like I said, contact me if you want. I'll send you the link if you want to show it at your church or to your neighbors, or if you just want to watch it again. It's heartbreaking is what happened to these people, and they are real, honest-to-God heroes. Thank you very much for coming. You got anything else you want to add, boss?
You got a question here?
Yeah, okay.
I just have a suggestion. What he said about getting involved.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Question. The way we do it, we'll have questions. If you want to make a speech, come talk.
Question.
Okay, ask me a question.
Why don't we call all the media, American Family Association, and tell them to mention every day about them? I mean, Christmas, there was no.
You mean our local media?
I mean, all over, support every night.
Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you try that and let me know how it goes, okay?
That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, it's the exact same thing that happened. Folks, I've mentioned this before. We're living in a revolution from the top. And that's exactly what happened in Germany in the late 20s and 1930s. Hitler wrote in Mein Kampf he was going to get elected through the democratic process into a position of power, which he did, the Reich Chancellor, and then they would start the revolution and seize all the power. That's what's going on here right now, folks. Any of you have a copy of the book Rise and Fall of the Third Reich? It's about that thick. It was published in 1960. It's a chore to read. I've read it a couple of times, but chapter 7, if you have that book on your bookshelf, sit down for an hour and a half and read chapter 7, The Nazification of Germany, 1933-1934. It's exactly the game plan they're using here right now. He controlled the churches, replaced the cross with the swastika, took the Bible off of the church, out of the church, and substituted Mein Kampf. So anyway, folks, everybody's got my number. Any question, as I've said many times, you'll never bother me calling me about anything to do with our liberty. Michael, yes, sir.
Did they ever say that Trump encouraged them, or they took
No.
directions from him to do this, or was that even mentioned?
This is, you mean the government?
Yeah.
Well, that's what they've been saying is he instituted, and he didn't. They got him on video saying, be peaceful.
Yeah.
So this is a shock, I'm sure, to everyone. The government lies. If I see something I use the media more as a negative barometer than as a positive. If they say, Rush Limbaugh, years ago, he'd seen something on CBS News or read something in the New York Times, and his remark summed it up. He said, my goodness, what if that's true? God bless Rush Limbaugh. I'm sure we all love him. Folks, thank you so much for coming. Spread the word. Try and get friends and neighbors and families to come to these meetings. We have a lot more impact at the state capitol when these politicians come to a meeting and there's 50 or 75 or 100 people here.
Yeah.
Yes. That's it, chapter 7. The book, the whole book is good, but it's real detailed. It's about that. Take care, Terry. Get happy birthday, buddy.
Thank you.